So, welcome back. We are starting a new book. I can't believe it. I
Whoa!
can't believe we finished a book. Um,
It took us how many years? I mean, months?
like 6 months or something, probably.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we're moving on to the next book in the Cosmere, which is Mistborn, and in the order that we're doing, which, by the way, is publication order. Yeah, I've got mine too here, actually, but mine looks a little
Ooh.
bit different. Mine is
Oh,
the
damn.
hardcover. Yeah, I just.
Oh, what a sexy beast.
I'm sure you'll want one eventually once we finish these. Yeah, so
Yes. Strong yes.
so we're in the order that we're doing, which is publication order. We did Elantris, and now we are moving on to Mistborn, and we're actually going to do all three Mistborn in a row with no breaks.
Mm.
When we get to books like Stormlight, there are other books in between that will kind of break up the series. But this series, this trilogy, we get to sort of experience as a whole. But before we get into that, how have you been?
Oh, pretty good. I would say that I feel pretty chipper, to be honest.
Nice.
Despite it being fall and miserable in Vancouver with all the rain and whatnot.
It's still pretty
Um,
colors.
it's still pretty colors.
Yeah.
I mean, we have color here. From what I hear about Prince George, it's just one color, which is white.
Yeah,
So
it's
all that snow.
it's trying to the snow is trying to stick to the ground, but it's raining a lot. So
Uh,
it's on that in between
Raining.
phase. Yeah.
Ugh. Okay, I don't miss that. I'd rather just have the snow there and then just be over done with
And then have
instead
the
of
rain in
having
Vancouver.
just pick a lane, Prince George. I don't know, but I would rather have snow over Vancouver rain
Mm,
anytime.
I'm the
Anytime.
opposite.
Ah,
Yeah, I would
okay.
definitely take the rain over the snow for sure. But I'm not a guy who does activities in the snow, right? Like my only snow activity is shoveling. I don't ski, I don't snowboard or any of that stuff.
You're just no fun. That's what I that's what I'm gonna say, and our
Okay,
listeners would agree too.
fair enough. Just an old curmudgeon locked in my
Just
warm
a,
house in the while it's snowing outside,
sipping your tea,
sipping my
reading
tea.
books.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Grandma.
From the
Ooh,
mug of our
UNBC
alma
mug.
mater. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
noticed that. Anyways, sorry,
Hmm.
I cut you off.
That's fine. That's fine. Went hiking this past weekend.
Hmm.
That was really good. I
Nice,
thought it was gonna rain, but it didn't. But it was just overcast, cloudy.
nice
I
surprise.
went with, yeah, it was surprising. Oh gosh, I went with a work colleague of mine.
Hmm.
They just moved in from Ontario to start
Hmm.
working at MDA, and they've been trying to get into hiking, but they keep picking the most extreme ones, and
Oh,
so they just wanted like a proper baseline of what they can just understand. I guess their level of uh, physical strain. We'll say that.
hmm.
Uh, so I just took them up to Capilano Ridge River up in North Van, where they have like the giant dam up there. It's really cool. It was
Yeah,
super nice.
I've seen pictures. I actually never went, but yeah, it looks amazing.
Hmm. So yeah, did that. Uh, had friends over on Saturday and made pizza from scratch and played board games. So it
That's
was
always
super
fun.
chill. It's
Nice.
always fun. We have sorry, I have this version of Risk called Risk Legacy.
Okay.
Have you heard about this, Mike?
No, I'm looking
Okay.
it up right now. Keep talking.
Okay. Essentially, the play style of the game changes as you play the game itself. So
Okay.
when you unlock certain steps, you add more rules to the game, you change the existing rule set, or
Mm.
essentially just it's it's supposed to make you feel like you're devastating the entire globe with war and
So
devastation and
yeah,
whatnot.
from the
And so
box
it's just
art.
making it permanent stuff
Oh, I see.
changes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. From the box art, it has like a mech on it, so it looks
Yes.
like it's futuristic. Risk is what you're trying to tell me.
It's a dystopian future
That's
where it's supposed
cool.
to make it quote unquote real. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's a
that
board game.
no, that looks fun. I love Risk. Is if there's a board game that I would like, I generally don't play board games, but board
Hmm.
games that I have enjoyed have been Risk and that variety. Yeah, they're really fun. And the Game of
They are
Life
very
for
fun.
some reason. I don't know why. I just really like the Game of Life.
I hate the game of life.
It's just like the most stereotypical vanilla board game aside from Monopoly. It's just like the one board game everybody had, nobody liked, but for some reason I really like the Game of Life. or I did at least the last time I played it.
Fair enough. God, man, you gotta try to have more games, man. I got tons here.
I know a
If you're
mutual
into
friend
that,
of
I don't know.
ours in our book club also has a room like with a wall, a bookshelf wall full of games.
Ooh,
Yeah.
damn.
Yep.
Gotta meet him in person.
One day soon.
Decent. Fair enough. And then reading books. Just bought another chonking volume of Berserk, so volume
Nice.
4.
Nice.
Oh, I can't wait to buy the next one. It just oh, the anticipation. Oh my god. If you know Berserk and you're in volume 4, you know what's about to go down. You know where the Band of the Hawk are right now. They're about to get eaten up.
That's
Griffith's
awesome.
about to make the worst decision he's ever made for his dream.
It's on my list definitely to read. I have the first one, and I've read a fair amount, I think, of the first volume, but I read it on like Comixology years ago.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's definitely one that I've been meaning to get back into.
Highly recommend.
Yeah.
Probably the only manga story I would ever recommend to anyone from my teenage years because the rest are pretty edgy and I cringe every time thinking about the other ones. So,
We all have those manga and anime of our past that we don't want to.
shudder.
Yeah, we don't want to tell other people about.
Oof.
But yeah,
Yeah.
Berserk is like a top 5 or top 10 for a lot of people. The manga specifically, right? Because I don't know if there's a really good anime adaptation. There's a really old one I remember, and I remember them.
Mm,
I feel like they tried to like do Berserk in different like after the one from the like early '90s,
hmm
but I don't think it didn't reach the success of like a Naruto or a Dragon Ball or something. Like there was no anime that propelled it that far, but the manga alone has
hmm
gotten a lot of praise.
Yeah. It's, I don't know, it didn't do it justice, the anime for it,
Right.
adaptations for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say so far, pretty good.
Nice.
Reading lots of books and yeah, content, happy, wanting to
That's
do
awesome.
more. There
There
we
you
go.
go. And Christmas
How
is
about
coming
you?
up.
Christmas is coming. That's right.
Get to see your family.
Yeah, that too. Get to
Yeah.
see them.
Yeah, it's been pretty good for me. Also reading a lot, gaming a bunch, mostly just playing Street Fighter and other stuff. And
Hmm
work has been really busy. I've been taking on more responsibility, so that, takes up a lot of time. I was just down south visiting you and a bunch of other people, and yeah, not really much else than that. I have been, so in terms of reading, I've been
Mm.
trying to finish up. So this series of Mistborn, there's the trilogy, and then there's a second era of Mistborn, which does like I think 100 year time skip or something to like the
Okay.
Wild West essentially,
Ooh.
and it kind of continues the story from there. And I've been trying to get through those. I think I'm almost done the second one now. And have you seen Invincible, the TV show on Amazon?
I've seen the first season. I've
Okay.
been trying to watch the second one, but I haven't had time.
Yeah, it's good.
Uh,
It's really good.
okay.
Yeah,
All right.
second season is out. It's good, and that has pushed me to read the comic because I
Mm.
know it changes from the show a bit, but it's still so far, at least in the first chapter, in the first volume, pretty accurate. So I bought the first volume on Kindle because I like reading my comics on my iPad because it has that feature where it'll close into the cell and you just swipe and it goes between cells, like it's a sort of way to guide you through
Oh,
it. Yeah, it's nice.
cool. So you can see the action dynamics change pretty
Yeah,
well.
rather than taking in
Hmm.
the whole page, you just take in the cell and it just sort of moves you along that way.
You and I are so different. I enjoy having the massive, like for example, I'll bring up Berserk. Kentaro Miura does a phenomenal job of using both pages and just detailing the hell out of them. You just get
Mm.
so immersed. You can spend 5-10 minutes looking at everything that's on there.
There's
It's
definitely,
incredible.
yeah, there's definitely those series, both comics and manga, that I
Hmm
prefer to just have like the physical copy. And it's also like to have the physical copy just, with, you collect the things that are important to you. So if it's a series that you really like, with what you're doing with the Berserk stuff, yeah, kind of like that.
Mm.
But yeah,
But
so I've been
that's cool
reading.
though with the Kindle. It's still pretty neat.
Yeah, no, I like it. Yeah. So I've been reading, yeah, Invincible. The first volume is like 1,000 pages and there's two more after that. Well, it's like a massive series. and I'm not very far, but I'm really enjoying it.
Mm,
Yeah, and then this book and the other book that we're reading right now by John Gwynn for our book club, Valor, which is
Valor.
actually shaping up to be pretty good. Um, yeah, other than that, nothing else. So I think
Okay.
that gives us a good transition into Mistborn. So we'll give a little bit of a spoiler as to how we're going to structure this. We're going to first go through the chapters. I'll give like a really high level summary of what the book is. For those who don't know, I imagine most people do. Um,
Summary of each chapter, though,
yeah, we're
not
going
the
to
whole
go
book.
into a summary of each chapter, the first
Okay.
5 chapters, and then
Mm,
we'll talk about what we think, where the things are going, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, let's get into it.
okay.
So the line to sell Mistborn is, well, it's not a line, it's just sort of like a story. I think, and I've told you this before, and I've probably said this on the podcast before, but Brandon Sanderson was watching Harry Potter, and
Mm,
the thought came to his head: what would it be like if the Dark Lord won? Something like that. And that's what this book is. The Dark Lord won, and this book happens 1,000 years after that. So we're in this land where like it's always cloudy. There's ash falling from the sky. All the vegetation is gray and drab because there's not enough sunlight. And from there, it kind of becomes a heist book. We'll get into that, and the first 5 chapters
yeah.
probably don't. They start to lay the groundwork, but a
They
lot of it happens
definitely
later.
do. Yeah.
And it
I mean, there
also,
was definitely a heist vibe at the beginning. I'd say
yes, for
that.
sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's also a very cool hard magic system,
Hmm.
which is very unique and super cool how they did it. So, yeah, let's get into it. Let's start with the
Ooh,
prologue.
such a cool prologue.
Yeah, I think this is the
Whoa.
so this part of the book, part one, is called "The Survivor of Hathsin," which is
Hmm.
a pretty sick name.
You know what's on a sick name though?
What?
Ska.
Ska with 2 A's?
No, it can't. No matter how many times you say it, it just reminds me of Real Big Fish and the ska music genre, and it's
You
so
know what?
dumb. I hate it.
I never that connection never
Really?
solidified with me throughout reading the book. Yeah, the thought occurred once, and then after that,
Mm,
it's just yeah, okay, yeah, they're the ska
mm. That's why the nobles hate them. Why do they treat them like lower class citizens, like
because of the music they
slaves, as we'll
like.
find out because of the music. That's right. They got a bunch of trumpets and checkered jeans, and
Yeah.
they go, "Keep it up, keep it up, keep
Oh my god, I
it
haven't listened to ska in years. It's been so long.
up." Don't.
I might revisit it now.
Oh boy. Okay, well, the prologue.
Yes.
It's it really okay. First of all, there's so much content in these first 100 pages
Hmm.
and detail
Hmm.
than I probably ever could surmise in the whole book of Elantris. Like Elantris feels
Mm.
like it just moves people along, and there's a bit of interactions here and there. In the first 100 pages, we get to see this entire world, and we understand what the stakes are and why people have the motivations that they do. And it feels like we're going to find out way more and be way into the weeds with everyone. It feels like everybody has a motive already, like a
Yeah.
secret motive,
Yeah.
which
So
is pretty neat.
one thing that I've noticed, and I noticed this a bit with Mistborn, but definitely through with Stormlight,
Hmm.
the way the world building is revealed to you in these books is like you're saying, like there's a lot of detail in there about the world, about the characters, about how they interact, all that stuff, and you're just kind of dumped in there without any sort of explanation as to why these things exist the way they exist. Like he explains things like the what is his name, Obligator, and the ska and the nobles and stuff like
The
that.
Lord
But
Treston.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
and about the mist, everything like that. Like it's all there, and but as you read more details about the mist, more details about the society and the structure are revealed to you. So it's really
Hmm.
cool the way the world building's done.
Hmm. Yes. Fill up this dead air.
So yeah, want to keep going with the prologue?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Um, I guess I could do the short summary this time.
Yeah, go for it.
Passing off the reins to me. Oh
I
no.
am, yeah.
Okay, you gotta guide me. Oh boy. So main story beats. We've already mentioned Lord Tristan and an obligator. So
Yeah,
Lord Tristan is this lower noble on the outskirts of Luthadel, I want to say.
that's the name
Luthadel
of
is
the
the
city. Yep,
city.
yep.
Yeah. I feel like it's like the countryside
Hmm.
of you know, I think we're setting in the countryside,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
we're introduced to both this lord and an obligator who is I want to say like a messenger or a like a word or spokesperson of the Lord
That's exactly it.
Eternal. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the characters you just introduced. Just the
sure.
main two. The Lord Ruler. That's the big
Lord
guy.
Ruler. Yeah.
He's the Dark Lord, right? He's the Dark Lord that won.
Hmm.
And the Obligator. So they're the ones who sort of do his bidding. So it's like he's God and they're his priests, and he goes out and like does deals for um between the nobles and takes a cut, that kind of stuff. And I think his name was Cayman or something, if I want to remember correctly. Like there's Lord Tresting
Hmm.
and Cayman, yeah, the Obligator. I'm pretty sure that's his name.
Yeah. Think
Yeah,
like envoys from kings and emperors when they go visit other countries or whatever.
yeah.
That's kind of what this guy is, the obligator that is.
Hmm.
But they're both standing and discussing produce that Lord Tristan and donations that he has to give while they're watching Ska work the fields.
Hmm.
So Ska, in this case, are, if we're doing Harry Potter comparisons, they're the enslaved muggles. They're those
Yeah,
who, uh, we'll find out later on, that they've been cursed or they're considered cursed and deemed lesser than human or
hmm,
lesser than animals, I guess. So people are allowed to treat them like garbage and own them
yeah,
like property, like actual slaves.
yeah.
Surprise, surprise. And the landscape is revealed that this world is in constant fog or haze where ash is always coming down. Well, not always
Hmm.
coming down, but there's like moments of ash comes down.
Ashfall, I think they call it.
Ashfall,
Yeah.
yeah. And right now, we're not sure, or I'll say, I have no idea why this event happened, but I'm assuming it was related to something happened 1,000 years ago.
Hmm.
That's my best guess.
Yes.
So the Lord, or sorry, uh, Lord Tristan, I guess his
Trusting.
name.
Yeah.
He's not called Tristan anyway. He catches a face in the crowd of
Oh,
Ska working the
yes. Yeah.
fields,
Yeah.
a face he doesn't recognize at all, but it's a face that's like full of hatred uh, and menace towards him.
Yeah.
And that's not something he's ever seen before in Ska. But it was someone dressed in that attire who's clearly working in his fields. But throughout his time, throughout his life, and for what he can remember, Ska have never raised like a hand or their voice or said anything against their
Yeah.
place in the world. But when he locked eyes with this individual, he knew that he was in danger.
It was like a look of defiance, right? Like
Hmm.
he's just sort of staring him down, and most ska would never make eye contact like that, or just yeah, look with that intensity at a nobleman.
Hmm. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then it transitions to later that evening where we get to follow this person staring
Hmm.
menacingly.
Yes. So that's our introduction to one of the main
Kelsier?
characters, Kelsier. Yep.
Kelsier, okay.
Yeah.
Because I'll never know how to pronounce these names.
I know. Yeah. These names are more what's the word? Well known just because of how popular this book is. So like when we get to certain
Oh,
characters, yeah, like the pronunciations are pretty standard because there's so many YouTube videos and other people talking about these characters, so know how to say them. But
gotcha.
yeah, Kelsier. Yeah, he's very brash, powerful, and an interesting guy.
I would say, yeah, hmm. There's a lot to him
Hmm.
because they, or Brandon Sanderson. Do we just call him Brando? Because I don't want to say
You call
Brandon
him whatever you
Sanderson.
want. Yeah,
Brando.
Mr.
All right,
Sanderson.
Mr. I don't know about that one.
Yeah,
Anyway, so Brando, I'll say Brando.
there you
Fine,
go.
whatever.
People
Point
say
it down.
Brando Sando sometimes.
Brando Sando,
Yeah.
our Lord and Savior. Uh, okay, no. Okay, Brando, he introduces Kelsier as that like aloof, carefree sort of
Yeah.
personality when he returns to camp with the Ska. And the short summary of it is that he's the one bringing in stories and rumors about a Ska rebellion occurring
Mm,
elsewhere,
that's right.
and he's letting everybody know that this is going to happen whether they like it or not. And we are introduced to two Ska individuals. One is the essentially like the patron of the Ska
Yeah,
workforce,
the elder.
and
I don't
and
remember the
the
other. Honestly, I think he was just like a younger guy who was kind of scared of.
he's the leader. I don't know where to put him. I would say he's the spokesperson
Yeah,
of
yeah, I could say
sorts,
that. Yeah,
lack of better terms.
yeah.
He's more like the one like if the Lord or if Tristan or any of his servants or whatnot need to speak to the Ska directly, they go to this individual
Hmm.
particularly. Whereas, yeah, so this younger man, I don't know. Anyway, this younger man, he doesn't like the ideas that Kelsier is bringing. He wants him to leave. He's going to cause more trouble than he's worth. Like feeding him, bringing him to the fold,
Yeah.
and teaching him. But the old man, he knows that this has been a long time coming, but
Mm,
he's not really prepared, or he doesn't feel like the Ska prepared to deal with the consequences, to be then thrown further down or to be utterly destroyed again. So
yeah.
he's a bit more
I think
wise, I guess.
I don't know if it's at this point, but there is mention of previous rebellions, ska like uprisings that failed. Um, so if he's been an older guy who's lived through those, he might have a memory of that kind of thing, or at least have heard of it before.
I think there are mentions of uprisings, not massive rebellions like
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
Like this
just
is the
little.
first where it's an organized rebellion across many uh, plantations, I suppose,
Right.
houses
Mm-hmm.
of ska
Yep.
workers and families and whatnot. And this old man, fears that Kelsier is the one who's going to ignite this powder keg,
Right.
who's going to cause this all to start tumbling down. And he does. So we are introduced to a disgusting fetish by Lord Tristan,
Oh yeah.
where
Yeah.
he takes children and does it whatever ways he pleases, Scod children to be
Yeah.
precise, and tortures them, um, commits other heinous crimes. I mean,
Yep.
Brandon doesn't mention it, but he like implies that
Yeah, for
he
sure.
screws them with them and stuff like
Yep.
that. So when the guardsmen come in to grab a random or a particular young girl from the ska, Kelsier just watches them go, and he slips into the mist that
Mm-hmm.
starts forming,
Mm-hmm.
and he heads towards the mansion that Lord Tristan is residing. And this is in the point of view of the old man watching him go, and he's concerned of what's going to happen next,
Yeah.
which is the house being burned down, or the mansion being burnt down with Lord Tristan inside.
Yeah. Yeah. So Kelsier takes revenge, or he saves the girl essentially.
He saves the girl. Yes, he
Yeah.
saves the girl before it all happens. And yeah, that's our prologue.
Yeah, pretty good. The one thing I wanted to mention was the epilogue at the beginning, which is at
Mm,
the beginning of every chapter. The little blurb that's written by presumably the hero of ages that they talk about in the book.
mm,
Also possibly written like from what I understand of this, he does mention the hero of ages. Yeah, so this is like the journal of the guy who should have saved the world 1,000 years ago, and he's questioning his leadership, which I think is probably, or it does play out to be a big theme in this book. Heroism, obviously, leadership, and the two different kinds of heroes that there are, or the many different kinds of heroes that they are. Kelsier being one, this person who's writing these epilogues being the other, and we get to see like a contrast between those two. I am
mm.
getting a little ahead, definitely for the prologue, but it is one of like the first things mentioned in this little blurb at the beginning when he's like, sometimes I'm worried that I'm not the hero everyone thinks I am. So it's kind of like right in your face that there's this book is about, heroes and heroism and that kind of stuff, and what different kind of people can be heroes.
Yeah, it's a world of gray, not
Yeah,
black and white.
yeah,
So,
almost like literally a world of gray.
world of
And yeah,
ash.
we see like Kelsier being a hero as well in
Mm,
this chapter. Like, he
mm.
saves a girl and kills the bad guys.
Pretty much. In this
Mhm.
case, justifiably, I would say.
Yep.
But um, I think we forgot to mention that the rumors of someone escaping a high prison facility are also confirmed in here, where they were
Oh,
questioning.
okay.
Yeah, because they were in the scout. So let's go back a bit more before the whole mansion burning thing. So in the ska encampment, when Kelsier shows up and they all have food together, there was rumors circling around all of them saying that, oh, someone escaped the prison. Gosh, I forgot the name of it. What is it?
Not sure.
Okay.
That's fine.
Anyway, it's the one that Kelsier escaped from because he
Oh,
had
the pits of
found something
Haston.
there. The Aston. Yeah, there you go.
Hathsin. Yeah.
Hathen?
Hath.
Hrathen? No. R.I.P. Hrathen.
Yeah. Pour one out.
So there was a little bit of a lore drop there for what I think is going to be important at what's being contained in the pits and what they're digging up, which does get
Mm.
revealed later on. So
Yep.
yeah, and so Kelsier is the only one that's escaped alive.
Right. And he also has a bunch of scars on his arm because the way that they mine things in there is by sticking their hands into a thing and having to pull the ore resource out. So
Hmm.
they can recognize that he's been in the pits because of those scars. Some people
Hmm.
can.
Yeah, because they've heard stories of it or
Yeah.
whatnot. I don't know,
Yeah.
or have done something similar. No, they would never come back if they've
Yeah. They
done it.
would come back. It's just
Yeah,
stories. Yeah.
yeah. So that's yeah, that was that.
Okay.
Okay. So the next chapter starts with Vin, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. Our second main character.
Hmm. And Vin were introduced as a street rat,
Yep.
essentially. Think like Oliver Twist, I guess, but like
hmm
Dodger and Oliver Twist.
Yeah.
No, not something like that. Like
Part of a crew.
part of a crew,
Yeah.
and she is treated like trash from
hmm
everyone because her brother betrayed the whole crew and hightailed it with a lot of the stuff that they earned in the previous heist.
Yes. Her
So they're all
brother.
taking out on this girl, Vin.
Yes.
And Vin, as we're getting introduced to her, is feeling a lot of resentment towards her brother, but
hmm
also misses him, telling herself that you should never trust anyone, even though they're trying to be nice to you and they give you all this advice and whatnot, and trying to be a
Yeah.
better person. It's a dog eat dog world.
Yeah.
And she is pretty much going along with what's happening around her. She's my instinct during that chapter is that she's trying to find a way out at some point, but doesn't want to get too involved with anything that's happening.
Yeah. She keeps her distance.
She keeps her distance,
Yeah.
but she's useful
hmm
because she has a particular ability called luck, which gets
Yes.
fleshed out later on,
Yeah.
where she can push someone else's emotions
Yeah.
to make them feel happier or comforted,
hmm
essentially being more pliable and gullible to what anything would be told to them, literally.
Yes.
And she is being kept around for that purpose,
Yeah.
but also treated
That's why
like
they're
trash.
using her. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think one thing that's important to note as well is that, like you mentioned, not being able to trust people. Like she's actually like hearing that as a voice in her head
Hmm.
of her brother who left her. So her brother, like you said, her brother left, and he was the only one that actually protected her from anyone. So this is why she stays away from other people. And she keeps hearing a voice in her head saying, like, anyone will betray you. Don't trust
Hmm.
anyone. Like, you're on your own. You can't do anything. So yeah, it's there's something there. Like, either she's crazy, which anyone could be in her situation, or maybe something more.
Or maybe something more. I think, I don't know, having your own brother betray you like that, I think you would have, and being the one that's cared for you for this time,
hmm
I'd say you would have a bit of a bit of a problem with your brother.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So we're also introduced to some other lowlifes in the gang. Kamen, the fat guy,
Yeah.
who is dressed up as a nobleman
Yes.
from a what the story appears that they're trying to swindle cash from the
Another obligator.
another obligator
Yeah. It's like
or
the
not or
called
like
it's called the Canton of Finance, which is like
it's
a
like a ministry of
yeah, that's
banking or
exactly
something
yeah,
like that for this
exactly.
empire.
Yeah, yeah, and they're the
Yeah.
ones who do deals, so they're trying to
Mhm.
con one of these obligators that works in
Mhm.
the I think they're called a pre-land or something. Just like previously with Odiv and whatever from Elantris, here's more religious hierarchy for us to learn.
Yeah.
He's a pre-land in the Canton of Finance.
Mhm.
And
He's like lower down the rank of
yeah, and it's the same as the obligator from the prologue, but and one thing that we actually forgot to mention is that their rank is displayed by tattoos around their eyes. So
yes.
they have these like some will have smaller tattoos, others will have ones that like cover their whole face, and that's how you can tell that they are of a very high rank. And this guy has this priest, I can't remember the name anymore, that they're
Obligator?
obligator that they're trying
Mhm.
to swindle has very like intricate tattoos, so he's pretty high up, has a lot of influence.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is so we see Vin stumbling into well, not stumbling, stepping into this meeting room, quote unquote, that's getting dressed up nicely to make it look like it's part of a nobleman's house or a
Hmm.
noble that's coming to visit to entertain an obligator to convince them to fund these shipping ventures that Cameron and the rest of the crew are, you know, putting up a like a con, like you said.
Hmm.
And so Vin points out, like we get to see a bit of Vin thinking logically around the room that it's a bit too nice for a noble house that's down on its luck. And so she tells Cameron that hey, maybe tone it down, like lose some of the nicer dressed people here, make them come out as like decrepit ska people or something like that.
Yeah.
Lose a couple of rings or something like that. Show that you've fallen from good graces if you
Hmm.
only are trying to plea for help.
Yeah.
And we get a sense that Vin is also more useful in other regards because she makes sense. She has brains, whereas the
Mm.
rest of the crew are kind of dumb
Hmm.
and are reactionary and don't think two steps ahead at all.
Yeah.
So I think that's all. Vin torments her quite a bit, or I don't know, like punches her or like slaps
Cayman
her
does,
around.
yeah. Like
Cayman
there's
does, yeah.
there's violence there for sure,
Mm,
and she does end up using like her luck when they have this meeting with the high
obligator.
prelan, yeah, the
Yeah.
obligator, and he does agree to like give him the money that he
Mm-hmm.
needs. And so they have this meeting, if I remember correctly, this meeting like the actual meeting where they meet with the obligator happens in the Ministry of Finance or in some canton's building. No.
No, that's chapter 4.
Okay. Because in
Yeah,
this chapter is when Kelsier and Docs and are they in this
that's
chapter?
that's chapter 2.
Oh, okay. That's okay. Yeah. Okay. Yep. You're right.
So we have a Prelin and a couple guards coming to visit Kamen and the rest of the people there. Vin's in there too, and
Yep.
they're trying to convince this Prelin or this obligator
Yep.
that they need funds for this to
That's what
to
it
like
is.
rebuild a noble house based
Yeah.
on the stuff that they lost. And Vin uses her luck on the obligator.
Mm-hmm.
It works,
Mm-hmm.
and Kamen is I don't know. Kamen is surprised, or Kamen's like relieved that it worked out, or something like that.
Yeah. Because it wasn't
And
going well, I don't think.
yeah, he was losing,
He
not
was
losing composure, but he was like losing the argument that
yeah.
why should the Ministry of Finance be bothered to do this business venture with them when there's like other houses that would
Mm-hmm.
just do it for the same, like more, but with like obviously more supplies and are better
That's right.
established.
Yep.
So the argument is won simply by saying, hey, we'll do it for a lesser price and we're desperate to do this, so we're
Yeah.
gonna like throw everything at it. And then the luck like smooths it over.
Yeah. And that seals the deal.
And that seals the deal, but they have to go pick it up at the ministry.
Yes. That's
That's the
what
thing.
sets up chapter 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, chapter 2, we see Kelsier entering Luthadel.
Yeah, he's like standing on top of a city wall.
Yeah, a city wall looking in, and he meets with an old partner of his, Doxson,
Mm-hmm.
where they have a plan in place. Or Kelsier has sent word that he's got a big idea and he wants everyone to come in and listen to it because it's going to be world changing.
Yes, his crew.
His crew. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but they
Doxson
they
meets him.
they skip the whole part where of the heist movie where he meets up with everyone and they go, "You son of a bitch, I'm in." They're all the
I
guys
feel
are
like
already in. Well,
there
except
there
for
there's
one, but he comes around.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, we'll go into that.
We'll
We'll go
get
into that.
there. Yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
I love the meaning of the crew. That's really good. I think it's really played out
Yeah, it's
well.
done well. Yeah, they're a funny
Yeah.
cast of characters.
They're hilarious.
Yeah.
I My favorite is gonna have to be the smoker. What's his name? Clubs.
Clubs, yeah.
This crotchety old man. No,
Yeah.
crotch. He's not an old man, but he's just like getting up in there. But he's like, ah, he's so good. We'll get into it when we get to chapter 4.
Okay.
Anyway, so chapter 2, Kelsier meets up with Doxson. They need to also go to the ministry and scope it out, if I recall
Yes.
correctly.
Yeah. So, yeah. The first time that I think Kelsier sees Vin is they're both in a waiting room in the canton and they're both waiting for their meeting and Cayman and Vin
Mm,
go in to do their meeting with the Prelan and that's when they, through a series of events, they eventually get the deal, which I think is something like 3,000 boxings, which is whatever the um, currency is in that world.
yeah.
Yep.
I'm trying to find. Do. I'm trying to find the name of the actual obligator they meet in there
I
because
think
he
it's
had a more
R
intricate.
Ariv.
Ariv,
AR.
yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you got it. So chapter 2 continues
Yeah. So
on
Kelsey, this is we did the
with
Kelsier on the wall, and then
yeah.
they Kelsier and Doc. Okay, so Kelsier and Doxson meet.
Hmm.
Um, I think we also learned that Kelsier tried to rob the Lord Ruler and failed. That's how he got into Hathsin.
I think you're right. Yeah, I forgot
Yeah,
about that detail.
yeah. Which it's fine. Like it's just because they mention it later when they say like something like your last plan didn't work out too well because he got captured, went to Hathsin, and now he's back.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
Doxson warns him that it's not a good time.
yeah, exactly. Doxson is a really cool character. I think these two have like known each other for a really long time.
Mm.
And yeah, they're planning their meeting for the club like later on in the evening. But
Hmm.
before this, that's when Kelsier sort of just takes Doxson to the Canton of Finance. I'm not entirely sure of his reasoning to do that, but yeah,
I don't
I don't recall
recall.
either. I don't know if it's very clear.
Yeah, but they have
Yeah.
hoods up. They just walk around with hoods up. That I
Yeah.
remember to avoid
Yeah.
detection. And
Yeah.
then Kelsier mentions that or asks Doxson, I should say, if he's got any news about from his brother, Kelsier's brother,
Yes.
about joining the heist. And so Doxson says
That's right.
maybe he's a bit on edge about it, or he's not really enthused about the idea of you coming back or having you have developed another harebrained oh my god my words you with another harebrained scheme of yours causing more
Uh-huh.
trouble than it's worth.
Yeah.
He's not too enthused about that, and so Kelsier's like, oh, you know what, I'll win him over. I'll
Yeah.
do some of my charisma on him,
Exactly.
type of thing.
He's being one of those guys.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so we have a point of view change to Cameron and Vin
Mhm.
going into the ministry and waiting in this main lobby area. And the whole time, Vin is scared that something's going to happen. Like this is all just a trap for
Yeah.
them to get caught into because so far it seems a bit too easy. Like no one's raised alarms at all, and everyone's just like very much. What was the right term for that? Not unimpressed, but just ignoring them.
Mhm.
Just assume like they just treat him like normal,
Yep.
then suspicion.
Yep.
And so they get brought into this big office, like this main office where we mentioned the obligator Arif
Yep.
is sitting in, and he has a huge set of tattoos around
Mm.
his face, like more so than the prelim that showed up beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And what Arya is doing to them is simply saying, "Tell me again what it is you want.
Right.
Why? Like what makes your case so special that's caused my prelim to be so convinced about it?"
Right.
And so Cameron goes again through the motions. It says, "Hey, we're desperate. We'll do this for a lower price. We'll throw everything at it. We just think we can go through you because you can trust us and other people can. We just give us a second chance."
Mm-hmm.
And Vin is scared. If you have to help me
Yeah.
fill in the details here,
No,
she's scared to
she
use her luck, or she's like low on using her luck.
yeah, so she's definitely she's like just worried about betrayal the entire
Mm.
time, because there is sort of a, before this we learn that Cayman plans to betray the other crew leader, so there's two crews working.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, so
Yes, I
there's two
forgot about
crews that
that.
have to work to pull off the deal, but
Mm,
he wants Vin to use her luck, and then he's just going to screw over the other crew leader, take the money, and run.
mm,
So that's what makes Vin super nervous. But she does, and there is a mention of her like maybe not being able to use her power, or she's too low on it.
mm.
Because at this point we do know a bit about how the magic system works, but not a lot. So we're not exactly sure why she can't use her luck. But she
Yes.
does eventually, and it's kind of sudden how quickly Ariv just agrees to the deal. Like because like I think the nervousness made her potentially use the power in a stronger way, because of how quickly he turned around. And yeah, he agrees to give him. That's when he agrees to give Cayman the large sum of money, which is 3,000 boxings.
I don't think Vin used it on Ariv.
No, I'm pretty sure, but I
Oh, no,
could be
wait, he
wrong.
did. Yes, yes, yes. Sorry.
She
Page
did.
39. Gritting her teeth, Vin reached out and used her luck on the obligator, making him less suspicious.
Yeah,
Reeve smiled. "Well, you've convinced me," he suddenly declared.
exactly. Yeah, it's very sudden. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
But there's a reason why to that,
yes,
where he
absolutely.
so calmly says, "Oh, I trust you completely."
Yeah.
And it's because they're suspicious of why that prelim first showed up in the beginning of saying,
Mm-hmm.
"Wow, what a great deal." And they're all trained to detect when their emotions are getting played with. So
Mm-hmm.
Ari was like, "All right, I got to see if this is the real deal or not." And
Yeah,
so when he feels Vin using her luck on him, he's like, "Okay, yep,
that's right.
this is
Yes, that
this
is right.
is that magic power we're going to chat in a bit."
Yeah,
So
this girl's
so
gonna
yeah,
be a problem.
just going to be a problem or an asset, which I
Yeah.
think that's probably why the next turn of events is going to happen. So Ari lets him go. He writes him a note beforehand to say, "Hey, go pick up your boxings at the main counter. Lord bless you, whatever." And Cameron has no idea what's happening. He's like, "Oh, this is great. I want to grab money and go." And then it's just like, "Oh my god, what's happening? This is way too easy. It's way too
Yeah,
easy. It's way too easy."
yeah.
And so they leave, and then
That's when,
moments later, Eri exits the main office building with an inquisitor behind him or
yeah,
beside him or
Steel
something like that.
Inquisitor. Yeah,
Yeah, a
who are
steel inquisitor.
badass.
Ooh, the description is like this muscular dude in like monk attire and has like two spikes going from like the front of his eye sockets to the all the way back
Yeah,
past through his skull.
yeah. So the
It's
points of the
wild.
spikes are pointing out the back of his skull. So that's what
Mm,
he has for eyes, and they actually have spikes all over their body.
yeah.
They're very, very cool bad guys
It's
and super badass.
they're so dope.
Yeah.
But Reeve sicks the steel inquisitor on them, pretty
Yes.
much hightails him after them.
Yeah.
Doesn't like run after them because they want to know where
Yeah, there's
they're
following them
kind
to
of
the
stored.
base.
Yeah.
Kelsier and Doxson also, this is when they notice Vin too,
Mm,
when her and Cayman are leaving the room. And I think they do have a bit of a discussion here about her having powers. I don't know if they use the word, but I think they think that she's what's called a misting. And they also
hmm
mention that she could be getting her powers from trace amounts of metal in the drinking water. Like, so she's drinking a certain metal or trace element of it, and that's where she's getting the reserves to use her allomantic abilities. And allomancy is the magic system of this world.
hmm
Yeah, I will after maybe the next chapter, we'll talk about the different types of magic users. But for now, yeah, let's just go on to chapter 3 because some fun and serious stuff happens in this one.
Yeah, this chapter 3 and chapter 4 kind of meddle together for me.
Yeah, it's
Chapter 5
all
is distinct. It's like very
yes.
clear what chapter 5 is, and it's a
Yeah.
badass. It's a really cool moment.
Yeah.
Chapter 3, I think Cameron and Vin return
Yeah.
with the
Back to
amount of
the
money,
yep.
and then Kelsier shows up, or
Yes.
Doxson shows up
He
right after
followed.
saying he followed them.
They both break into
Mhm.
Cayman's lair. I think they do it when so there is a point, and I'm wondering if it's this one. So where Vin wants to escape. So he gets Cayman gets back and he's flaunting all of
Mhm.
the money. Vin is a bit nervous because there's sort of like a delicate politics between the crew of
Yeah.
Ska here. So like if he's flaunting the money, it's very easy for one of the members of the crew to be like, "Well, I want that money, so I'm just going to kill him and leave." Like they can challenge his leadership very easily.
Mm.
And so this kind of causes Vin to be like, "Okay, I got to get out of here." And there's
Yeah.
one person that she trusts, and his name is Ulef.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, he's a young guy.
yeah, he's a young guy. He's the only one that's ever been nice to her. And he approaches her like, I'm going to escape. And he's like, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. And she goes and packs up all her stuff. And one thing that's important to note that she takes is a metal earring that her mother gave her.
Mhm.
Um, and when she goes to leave with Ulef, she realizes that Ulef betrayed her. He snitched to Cayman. And
Yep.
that's when the beating starts. And it's pretty
Mhm.
rough. It's pretty brutal. And that's when Kelsier and Doxson break in because they hear, I think they probably hear the abuse of Vin or something happening because they were watching this whole thing happen. So yeah, Kelsier breaks in. He's recognized as the survivor of Hathsin. So
Mhm.
his rumor spreading has been working. Like he started spreading the rumors out at Presting's place, and now it's getting back to Luthadel, which is
Mhm.
interesting. And yeah, I think I can't remember exactly what it is, but through a series of events, he essentially like takes Cayman's money and deposes Cayman as the leader of the crew, or is that the next chapter? I can't recall.
That I feel like it's still chapter 3.
I think so too. Yeah,
He like kicks Cayman out
yeah.
and
And he
he puts
assigns
someone else in
someone else.
charge.
Something with an M.
Miliv,
Yeah, Miliv.
Miliv,
Yeah, something
Miliv or
like
something like
that.
that. Miliv,
Yeah, yeah.
who's just like another low life guy who will just follow orders blindly without who not
Yes,
wanting to be in trouble. So
yes, exactly.
so I also recall Kaleseer and Doxson were tailing the Steel Inquisitor, and both Ben, Kamen, and the Steel Inquisitor. And like, but they branched off. I think like Doxson were going after Ben and Kamen, whereas Kelsier was going after the Steel Inquisitor, not like
Yeah.
killing him, but just
hmm
like getting him off the scent a little bit. And then that's what I recall.
Yes, and then so before this chapter ends, there is Kelsier, Doxson, and Vin talk about allomancy, and this is where we get sort of a bit of insight into how this magic system works. So Kelsier
Mm,
gives Vin this little vial that's an alcohol solution with metal shavings in it. So this is how the allomancers take in their metal. They drink it, it goes into their stomach, they burn it, and I think in the prologue they talk about the sensation of burning. It's like drinking a hot glass of cup of tea. Like that sort of warm sensation that you feel in your stomach is what it feels like to burn the metal.
burn the metal itself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she burns the metal, and she's able to burn both metals. So he gives her a solution of a metal and an alloy, I think. So that's how it works. Each metal has an alloy. So there's some like iron and steel. If
Mm,
you inject if you consume
consume it.
iron, you can burn it. And I'm gonna get this, I could get this wrong because I don't quite recall, but if you burn iron you can push against metal, and if you burn the alloy steel you can pull against metal. So all of these, the way the magic system works is there's a metal and an alloy, and they both have almost opposing but same powers, or opposing but related powers. So Vin's able to burn both types of metals, and this makes her a
A
special kind
Mistborn.
of magic
Yeah.
user. Yeah, a Mistborn. So this is why I waited. So I'm going to explain a little bit of the magic system. So there are different
Okay.
types of users. There are at the lowest level Mistings,
Mhm.
who can only burn one type of metal. So they're born and they can burn iron and steel, and that's it. They can't
Mhm.
burn any of the others. And then Mistborns who can burn all of the metals, so they have access to all of the powers. So if there's, we learn later what some of the other powers are because of the crew members are all Mistings. They all have one set of metals and or one metal, one alloy that they can burn. Whereas Mistborns are the more powerful ones, and they can use them all. And it's also something that's hereditary, so it's passed down, and it's supposed to
Of
be
a higher
contained.
noble blood, is that right?
Exactly, it's supposed to be contained in the
Yeah.
noble blood. So since all of these crew members are Ska, but they're Mistborn or Mistings,
Skip it up, skip it up.
that means that they're products of these illegitimate relationships that people like
Mm,
Tresting have been having. So they're half Ska, half noble. So they're Skas with powers, essentially.
mm,
So yeah,
pretty
that's
much.
Chow chapter 3 sort of ends. We do get a little bit as well about Vin's mother. So she doesn't know. So we find out that Vin's mother was crazy and tried to kill her, but
Mm,
Reen, her brother, saved her life and took her away from her mother. And all that we know about Vin's father is that he is a high prelin in the Steel Ministry. So the
mm,
ministry that we just encountered was the Ministry of Finance, I think, or something like that. And this one's the Steel Ministry, so it's a different branch. And there's a high prelin there who is Vin's father somewhere.
mhm.
Yeah. So chapter 4 is the aftermath of Cayman's downfall.
Pretty much that. I
Yeah.
think how that goes is Kelsier told the remaining grunts that he's going to have a little chat with his some of his colleagues, so they
Yeah.
better hightail it out of there when they show up.
Yeah. This is a cool chapter because this is the introduction of all of the crew
They're
members.
so cool. They're so
Yeah, they're
cool. I
super
love them
cool.
so much. They're so much. They're so fun. They're so fun.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Vin is left like Kelsier told the rest of the crew to not bother Vin at all.
Hmm.
But we get like in the beginning of this chapter, the rest of the crew are just like poking their heads into this room where Vin is sitting
Yep.
quietly, like in a corner, and they're like, "Hey, what's going on? What are they doing, huh?" And so Vin just glares at them, and I think she tells them to fuck off or something like that. I don't know,
Yeah,
or
just
mind
to
their own
leave her
business.
alone. Yeah.
Yeah, and we get the first two comrades show up,
Hmm.
Breeze and Hammond.
Hammond. Yep.
Hammond,
Yep.
yes.
So,
So
yeah, go ahead. I'm interested to hear what you think of these guys.
they're so cool. So as you mentioned, Mike, they each misting has a particular metal they're associated or
Yeah.
proficient with,
Yeah.
and they're called specific things or they're users of a
Yes.
specific type of thing.
Yeah.
So I wrote notes down because I
Okay.
would never ever remember them. So
Okay.
we have Breeze and Hammond.
Hammond.
So Breathe Hammond, yes, or called Ham in the books.
Yes.
And Breeze is like a well-dressed man.
Yep.
He looks very approachable, very warm.
He wants to be a
Uh,
nobleman.
he wants to be a nobleman, and he is what we describe as a soother. So someone
Yes.
who soothes or essentially pushes on people's emotions to calm them down, like
Yes.
how Kelsey or how Vin does.
Hmm.
And Hammond is a soldier, if I recall correctly,
Yeah,
but
he
he's more like the
burns
brawn. He burns a pewter,
pewter. Yep.
but he's also called a pewter arm,
Yes, because it
which is
increases his physical strength and
mhm,
endurance. It just makes him super strong, essentially.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so essentially, like the brain. I don't know what the brains and the bronze, but that's kind of how these two were introduced.
Right.
Hammond
And I think if I
is
remember correctly, they're introduced like having a debate or something, or like asking
they
about.
were having a debate about yeah something or
Yeah,
other.
I can't
I
remember
can't find
exactly
it.
what it is. It's fine.
But they come in, they are inquiring if this is the right spot, and then Hammond is trying to see. No, not Hammond. Sorry, Breeze
Hmm.
is there's a what does he do again? He pushes on Vin to get him a glass of wine
Yes. Yeah.
from the counter,
Yep.
and Vin does so without
Hmm.
knowing what's happening. But then she realizes what was happening when Hammond says, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing that to her."
Right. Yeah, yeah. Don't
And
be
Vin's
picking on
like,
her.
yeah. So Vin just gets surprised that she's being used the same way that she does on other people, but
Hmm.
it's such a masterful way that she's never encountered before.
Yeah, it's like really powerful how he's able to
Yeah,
do it and like
mm,
almost like without trying.
without trying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're experts at what they do based
Hmm.
on what and how we're introduced to them. Hammond, we
Yep.
don't get to see him show off his physical abilities in this, but Hammond brings in the muscle. So he has
Yes.
other soldiers or thugs to sort of put down
Yep.
like some strong arming elsewhere, and then Breeze is the one that makes things a lot smoother without
Hmm.
causing a lot of or any sort of agitation or anger
Yep. And I
or
think after
or
this is
threat.
where the next one arrives.
Is that
Clubs.
Yeadon? Is it Clubs?
It's
Oh, it is
clubs.
Clubs. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. So Clubs is a smoker.
Yep.
I don't think he smokes, but in this case, he's a misting that has the ability, if I recall correctly. I'm going to jump over to this.
Yep.
Bum. Oh no. Do. He.
So do you want me
Oh
to?
no. What? Oh, copper. He brings copper. My
Okay.
goodness.
Nice.
Yeah. And so he's able to he like creates like a cosmic, no, not a cosmic, like a caustic cloud
Yeah.
that prevents people from seeing through it or like sensing anything through it, so
Hmm.
it masks anyone behind it or in it, essentially.
Yes. It masks. Pretty sure it masks like allomancy, so people can
Mm,
allomancers can use their powers within this quote unquote cloud without being detected because there are metals that certain mistings or mistborns can burn to detect the use of
mm.
or to detect metals and possibly to detect the use of allomancy. I'm not entirely sure if I might be misremembering, but yeah.
Not I wasn't introduced to those concepts in these 5 chapters.
Yeah, I mean that's
Where
kind
where
of
we're
implicit
seeing, okay,
in Clubs's power to hide things,
yeah,
being a smoker,
yeah.
yeah.
And we get a bit of a taste of being able to detect what's happening to oneself if influenced by these abilities. Like
Mm,
the obligators, when they noticed that Vin was using her luck on them, they knew that they were being manipulated. So you either,
right.
I don't know if you're trained to do so
Oh
or if you have
yeah.
a
Mhm.
predisposition to do so.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's something you get to understand.
Mhm.
Like having a proper sense of self in the situation, if something's changing within you, you're like, okay, I'm being manipulated some way. And who's
Yes.
doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
And then
don't know if they know who's doing it.
yeah, I think they can probably just sense that it's happening. I'm not entirely sure too,
Yeah.
but I'm sure it'll get explained soon.
Yeah. So my one of my favorite side characters is definitely going to be Clubs because of what he does after, which is super funny. So Clubs comes in, doesn't like acknowledge. Well, he acknowledges them. He just like glares at the people in there.
Yeah.
He goes sits down on the opposite side of the room and just doesn't want to interact with anyone.
Yeah.
And Hammond and Breeze are just chatting to each other about how shitty of a deal that Clubs is here. I think they say it out loud too, which is so it's so hilarious, but
Yeah,
also disrespectful to this
absolutely.
guy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It sounds like they've done dealings with him before, with other jobs and whatnot,
Mhm.
and it definitely feels like everyone knows what they're up to at all times. They're just respectfully just turning a blind eye to what they're doing, and
Yeah.
if they have to, lend a hand to each other, then it's like out of necessity instead of out of kinship. So far, that's what I'm
Mhm.
detecting.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I think the next person who comes in is
Eden.
Kelsier, Doxson, and Eden.
Yeah,
All
it's
three of
Eden.
them.
Yeah, Eden
Oh,
comes
is it
in
just Eden?
last. Yeah, and he's
Uh,
just he's the leader of the Ska rebellion and
mm,
but he's not a misting, so he doesn't have any elementic powers.
mm,
Um so when Kelsier and Doxon come back, there is we learned that like Eden hired Kelsier to lead the rebellion, like to overthrow the empire.
mm-hmm,
And so I think Eden is partly responsible as well for like, spreading these rumors and because there's some truth to it.
mm-hmm.
And trying to inspire hope and like change within the ska.
Yeah, pick
Yeah.
it up, pick it up. So
So we also learn a bit about the plan. Um,
Which is dropped so hard. So they all think it's just like a little fun thing of like stealing one or two things from the Lord Emperor himself.
yeah,
And so Kelsey's like, "No, we're gonna overthrow
yeah,
him."
yeah, for sure.
Everyone just stares at him. They're like, "What?" And Eden just looks so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
We also got to find out that Eden doesn't like to have help from anyone outside of
Hmm.
the
Rebellion.
rebellion, let alone Mistings or Mistborn,
Hmm.
because he's a bit distrustful of them. But Kelsier I don't recall how he convinces Eden to trust him and his crew.
Yeah, I don't
I
actually recall that either, to be honest. But it does happen for sure. Like eventually, like
mhm.
they just continue to they decide to continue to move forward, and even though certain members are also not on board, they do eventually come around.
Yes, and it's
Yeah,
because there's like a well, two things. Once they overthrow Lord, I would say Lord
the
Emperor,
Lord Ruler.
Lord Ruler,
Yeah.
they get access to his stores of atium, which
Yes.
is the 10th element,
11th
allomantic,
medal.
11th
Yeah.
allomantic metal. Yeah,
Yes.
which is like
Yeah.
god tier or something like that.
Apparently, yeah. We don't know exactly what it does yet.
Mm.
Um,
But they're all like, "Oh my god, this is incredible!
yeah,
Yes, we would do this."
this has to be what it is that the Lord Ruler
Mhm.
is using to stay in power or whatever.
Well, that's what they confirmed essentially is that the Lord Ruler has a stockpile of this magical metal that he like gives in small portions to noble families to control them because they
Yes,
need it to function.
exactly.
And
And I think we also learned that where it's mined, which is the
the
pits of
whole house
Hathsin.
is the
Yeah,
pits of out, yeah,
yeah,
because that's where Kelsier found out. He's like, ah, this is where
exactly,
he gets it from.
exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah, Clubs is the one who doesn't join and wants to leave.
he's like,
Or I
you
think he does
crackpots, I'm
leave.
leaving.
Yeah.
He does leave. He does leave, and they, I think it was Breeze who says, ah, well, you know what, we'll find someone else, or we don't really need a smoker anyway because I'm great, or something like that.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I think Doxson says, nah, I think we're better with the smoker, better to have everyone's abilities
Hmm.
than, missing something like that. So
Yeah. Uh,
they, oh, go ahead.
I was just saying that I think the reason he leaves is because he's more suspicious of what Kelsier is actually doing. Like, what are his true motives?
Yeah,
Yeah. So there's
we get that later when he shows up again,
yeah, there's a
like
little bit of
right away.
mistrust there. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
which is why I like him. Which is why I like him.
He's a crotchety old
So
man, but he's
he's a
smart.
crotchety little man, but he'll save his own hide.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
um, so they go with Chelsea's plan.
Yep.
Yaden agrees. He
Yep.
pays him 30,000 up front, 30,000 at the end,
Something like that. Yeah.
something like that.
And
And
then they're
it's like
coming
pocket
then
change to something as grand as overthrowing the empire. But
exactly, yeah. And then I
yeah,
think the rest of this chapter, it's not too long, but they are trying to come up with the plan essentially.
hmm
Because they're going to rob the Lord Ruler, get the 11th medal. They talk about trying to make it past, the Inquisitors. There's some mention of these creatures called Koloss, which come up later.
hmm
And yeah, the 11th medal. Like, I think we also like Kelsier does say that his plan is to kill the Lord Ruler by using the 11th medal. But again, we still
yeah.
don't know what the 11th medal does exactly. But he says that it's the Lord Ruler's only weakness.
hmm
Yeah.
And we could tell that he has like a personal vendetta with the Lord Ruler.
Oh
There's
yeah.
a moment where Kelsier's character, like sunny, outgoing personality, just fades away, and we see, I want to say someone like filled with hate and revenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm thinking that this is the true Kelsier. That this is one who's like
Yeah.
constantly fueling himself full of hatred
It
for
gives
this Lord
us
Ruler.
it gives us that insight into him a bit because like he's up to this point he's always been sort of happy-go-lucky.
Hmm.
So we learn that either it's a facade or it's something that he keeps up for other reasons, and sometimes he gets overwhelmed by his hatred for the Lord Ruler. But yeah, he
Mm-hmm.
really does not like this guy.
No, I think educated guess.
uh,
We get to find out why he hates the Lord Ruler a little bit more, but not fully. Um, but I think he is going to be the type of person that's going to sacrifice everyone to get what he wants.
Kelsier.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's like he's building this crew on friendship and trust, and he's going to betray them in the end.
Yeah, he's going to push them to the point where they die or fall out with him,
Yeah,
just so he
because of
can
his
get there.
because it's like he's got blinders on. This is his one thing that he wants to accomplish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what is
Okay.
gonna happen.
All right.
Um,
So that's the
and
end
then
of chapter 4, I think.
but we get Clubs coming back in, right? So Club shows up
Oh,
back
right.
in,
Yeah, you're
and
right.
he's like,
Yeah.
"All right, is that Seether guy got out of here? Because I don't trust him.
Yeah,
Because I don't
Breeze,
want him
right?
playing with
Yeah.
my emotions when
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
that's
control
right.
him or whatever."
Yep. Yep.
And then he says, "I'm in."
You son of a bitch, I'm in.
You son of a bitch, I'm in. There, he does the
Yeah,
thing.
he does the thing.
uh,
That's funny.
yeah. I think Doxson and Kelsier knew he'd come back or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, they
Yeah.
knew, like they've obviously worked with him before, and they knew
Mm.
him. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really cool. I
Yeah,
like it.
absolutely.
The next chapter, though, chapter 5, that's pretty damn awesome.
Okay.
I liked it a lot.
Let's get into it then.
All right.
Okay.
So, did we have Kelsier put on the Mistborn cloak yet? Or is it
Uh
in this chapter?
it's in this chapter that he gives one to Vin, and we're
Mhm.
described as to what we get the description of what the cloak is like, which is badass. I
Mm.
think that's the first time. I mean, maybe when he was looking over the city at the beginning on the gate when he
Mhm.
first got to Luthadel, we got a description of what the mist cloak looks like. But no,
Yeah.
this is definitely the chapter where, you know, it's the Luke finding the lightsaber in Obi-Wan's
Oh,
hut.
no. I was gonna say Batman gives Robin his cowl or
That
something,
too,
becomes,
yeah. It's that coming of
Night
age moment, right?
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Something like that.
Something like
Anyway,
that. Yeah.
we get Star Wars reference in here. That's never
Oh,
gonna go away. We'll throw other
always.
stuff in the
Yeah, for sure.
always have Star Wars.
So there is okay. So before the cloak, they are still in Cayman's lair.
Mhm.
I think Dachshund finds like hidden bottles of wine at some point,
In
and
a
they
false bottom or something like that,
yeah,
a
and they
false
drink it.
wall.
And there
Mm.
is one more character that shows up, named Spook, who is
Ooh, I forgot.
the teenage nephew of Clubs. His full name is Lestiborns, but he's just Spook, and he speaks in a very weird way. It's hard. It's like an Eastern street slang, and it's like all adjectives and gerunds, which is very hard to understand. And someone usually needs to translate for him. So he's a weird
Ah,
kid.
okay.
But yeah, that bit happens, and then Kelsier gifts Vin the Mistborn cloak, and it's like it's got the tattered edges, so like it kind of flows in the mist and looks like a living thing, which is super cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we does chapter 5 go into what the mist does and how that helps the Mistborn sort of stay hidden throughout it?
Yes, yeah, so it does. It talks about how the mist is something that the Ska generally fear, but
Mhm.
it's an asset to a Mistborn
Yeah.
because they can use it to hide themselves and use their powers without being seen. And it's also like if you're fighting a Mistborn, you can go in and out of the mist and hide and all that kind of stuff. There's
I
also
think
like there
Oh,
is
go ahead.
a passage, I guess, where it almost talks about the mist as having consciousness. And I
Mhm.
think it's like Kelsier standing in the mist, and the quote is like, "The mist knew him, and the mist claimed him."
Mhm.
So it's like there's some almost consciousness to the mist because no one knows where it comes from. It just shows up every night. Um,
Yeah, we're never given an explanation.
yeah. So
Like
yeah,
how there's the world is full of ash and whatnot.
yes. So yeah, Kelsier gives Vin the cloak, and then he talks about how he's going to steal some of the 11th metal, atium, from a
'Cause he
great
needs it.
house. Yeah.
Yep.
So he goes to Keep Venture. So Venture is a family that is like one of the most, I think it is the wealthiest noble house. So he targets that one. There's also they mentioned that the daggers that he uses are made of glass.
Mm-hmm.
because a Mistborn would be able to push if they were made of metal. A Mistborn would be able to push against them and send them in all
An
different
enemy Mistborn.
directions or
Yeah,
control
yeah.
them. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I'm pretty sure this also does like this chapter. He does get to keep Venture, and he breaks in and he steals
Yes.
something in the wall safe. And this is then he gets confronted as he's leaving, and this is when we
Mm-hmm.
learn about a special kind of soldier that is trained specifically to fight Mistborns called Haze Killers,
Mm-hmm.
which is a badass name. Um, and yeah, they get into a fight. We get sort of a cool introduction to Kelsier using the powers. He's pushing and pulling and flying around and killing dudes. um,
It's insane. This entire chapter
it's
is
pretty nuts, right?
describing. It's like all Killseer's point of view,
Yeah,
but it's just like Brando just literally tells us like, oh, Kelsey's gonna drop a couple coins,
yeah,
and in your mind you're like, why is he dropping coins?
yeah.
And then he's like, he like with the vial of steel that he's consumed, he's gonna push against it, and we get like a thought process. Like there's a point where Kelsier misses a step with the coin. The
Mm,
coin is still falling, but he can't push against it because his weight is pushing against the coin,
yeah.
and he can't really repel from it. But once the coin hits the ground, the he's able to like control himself in midair and then allow
Yes.
himself to rebound.
Yeah.
And
The
so we get to
force.
see a lot of like Kelsey's thought process of like, oh, if I fling it this way, so I could see, you know, this metal align around me. Because there's is it iron or steel that he could see the blue
Yeah, one of them,
outlines, like the
he can
magnetic
see
fields?
outlines of metal that are all sort of like floating in the
Mm,
air coming to his body. So the thing that you're describing with pushing and pulling is really important because exactly like once if you were to push a coin against the ground, it won't the coin will move until it hits the ground and then it can't move anymore. So something has to move, and
mm,
that's the actual Mistborn, the person who's pushing. So
mm,
they can essentially they can push and pull against metal. Same thing with pulling. Like if you pull something to you, it will come to you, but if it's lodged into the wall, you will go to it.
yeah.
So they can push and pull and essentially fly through cities if there's enough metal around, which is
Hmm.
super cool.
It is so badass.
Yeah,
And
it's awesome.
it's like because they're I don't know, they're like far away from the keep or like this giant
Yeah,
castle
yeah.
or whatever. And so to get across to it, because Kelsey wants to drop through the top, and so what he has to do is to fly up all the way. He has to drop these coins spaced
Hmm.
out and to
Yeah,
bounce on top of them until he gets to the top. And then
yeah,
he pulls on like a guardsman's breastplate to pull himself up, and
yeah,
then he like pushes him away. It's really cool. It's so awesome.
yeah. It's pretty sweet.
And he yeah, and so he also is trying to make like a scene to
Hmm.
send a message to the rest of the houses that
You're not
no
safe.
one is safe from exactly
Yeah.
from thievery and murder and whatnot. So so it's a lot of action scenes. But that I've read a lot of books where the author goes way too much in describing what the character is doing when they're
Mm.
trying to stab someone.
Hmm.
Like I think there's a moment I remember. I think it was like a young adult novel called Leviathan or something like that,
Hmm.
where we have this kid operating this machinery, and the author goes into detail of like he pulls the crank, but the crank is not squeaky or is oiled enough to pull it fully, so the gun doesn't rotate the whole way, and because the gun, it goes,
Yeah, it just
it's
keeps going.
kind of boring. It's just drags on.
Yeah.
What Brando does here is he just says Kilseer like whips around this coin that was on the other side, going through the guy's neck and back in his hand. I'm like, holy crap!
Yeah.
Like,
No, it's really
whoa!
cool.
It's so awesome. And so you'll have these moments where he's fighting these haze killers, and the positions of the haze killers, like oh, like two of them went behind Kelsier because he just got knocked out with like a club by one of them, and Kelsier doesn't like has to think about how to get through this and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's it's just like the scene is getting played in your mind, and you have to catch up with the writing. It's so refreshing.
It's like hectic, but it's not it's still paced well. It's hard to
Yeah.
describe. It's just like really
Mm.
well done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No,
Really
absolutely.
good.
It's super cool. And so he does end up escaping with the safe
Safe of
full of
ATM.
ATM.
Mm.
And yeah, that's the end of chapter 5. So
Yeah.
I think you're liking the book so far.
Oh, I love this book. I wish I got the hardcover of
Well,
it.
you'll have to eventually.
uh, I I made an effort to go to a bunch of secondhand bookshops in Vancouver to
Hmm.
see if they had any Brandon Sanderson books.
Mm,
I couldn't find any hardcovers. Like there was
damn,
like a
they're
few
hard to
soft
find.
covers, but
Yeah,
just they're
yeah,
hard. They're just so hard to find. I have to order them from Amazon or
yeah,
someone else.
yeah, totally.
Ugh, so annoying.
So, any thoughts on where you think things are going? We already got your Kelsier prediction, which is
Kelsier
fairly,
prediction.
yeah, which is
Yeah.
a good one.
Vin, uh, I want to say will learn her true powers as a Mistborn,
Hmm.
and probably will confront Kelsier as to what's the right way of saving the world and what to do with that.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if she'll meet her brother. Maybe she'll
Mm,
forget about it. Maybe he meets him on the road and says, "I've become a better person. I don't need you anymore."
right. Yeah. Become
Or like
stronger.
forgives
Yeah.
him or something.
Possibly. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll see the brother like doing petty crimes to stay alive,
Right.
and then Vince like, "I'm so much better than you. I run with the cool guys.
Yeah.
I have honor. You
Yeah.
you suck or whatever. I don't know." I think there will be some people that die. I think Breeze and Hammond will die.
Oh wow.
I
Bold.
think I'm saying it. I'll
Okay.
be color me surprised later. But I don't have. Oh, what's the metal that allows you to see better? Is it tin? Tin like lets you
Yes,
see in the
that's the one
dark.
that Spook can burn. It
Mm,
enhances your senses.
that's right.
Yeah.
Senses.
Yeah.
I don't have any tin myself, but if I had to see a bit clearly, there's definitely gonna be like heartstrings that Brando's gonna pull on us and have a couple characters die or betray or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think Cammon's gonna come back. I
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair.
they maybe the other gang leaders will show up, but they're also just like petty crime lords compared to Kelsier's group of people. So,
Exactly. Yeah, it seems like in the first 5 chapters, like from Vin's start, that there's been a leveling up. Like we're on a different level right now. It's not
mm,
low petty, fraud.
stealing
Yeah.
from the ministries for or swindling ministries and other noble houses to I don't know fund them. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I can't think of anything else. Yeah, but that's
That's
yeah,
fair.
that's me. What about
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, I mean, I already know where it's going, but
Oh, right. Duh.
um yeah, I like what this sets up the first 5
Mm,
chapters. It gives us a really good introduction into allomancy.
mm-hmm.
And the two main characters that we're introduced to, Vin and Kelsier, are very interesting, and it seems like it's going to be that sort of coming of age story.
Yeah.
There's the teacher and the student. Um, I like the ideas of sort of heroism that are presented, like Kelsier's way of doing things, and uh, the hero of ages that we're reading about in the epilogues, his way of doing things, which is more like nervous and unsure of himself. There's
Mm-hmm.
also a lot of like trust and betrayal and friendships, especially from Vin's side. Like she can't trust anybody, and I throughout she's starting to understand what a friendship is through Kelsier and his crew. Like
Mm,
I think there's talks about it when they interact, like when Clubs leaves. I think she has a thought like, oh, the Kelsier's not going to kill him because
mm,
that's what a crew leader in her world would do. Like she would like, you're not going to listen to me. I'm going to kill this guy because that's just how brutal the world that she came from was. So
yeah.
she's learning, things about like what friendship is and that kind of stuff.
Or trust
Um,
even.
yeah,
Like they not be friends, but they respect each other.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sets up a really cool story so far. They're planning an interesting heist. Even from what I recall, it goes to some really fun places. So yeah, we're in for it.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah,
All right, I'm excited.
cool.
Huh. You wouldn't say that's another one for the books now, would you?
Oh my god, already?
Oh, we're back,
Okay,
baby.
we're gonna try and do chapters 6 to 10 next time.
Yes,
Um, which is considering there's only 30 chapters in this book or so, they'll be pretty long, but that's good.
that's fine.
And
We've
yeah,
like read an eighth of this book already.
I know. Yeah, the first 5
Huh.
chapters was quite a bit, which is awesome.
Mm,
Yeah.
super
Cool.
excited for more.
All right. Yeah, me too. So we will be back next time chapters 6 to 8 of Mistborn. We'll see how many of Alex's predictions come true in those chapters.
6 to 8, 6 to
Sorry, 6
10,
to
my
10.
guy.
6 to 10. Yeah, 6 to 10. My bad.
Actually, it's 6 to 9, 69. Boom, got him.
Okay, we're done.
All right, see y'all later.
Have a good night. Bye.